Star Wars Outlaws wants to be your dream open world galaxy. IGN first. Well, let's see about that.
We will watch your career with great interest.
Making games is really tough.
Hold up. Is he already making excuses for this game? Making games is really tough. Yeah, I get that it's tough, but it sounds like an excuse has already been made.
Making open world games is really, really tough. And making Star Wars open world games is the next level of difficulty.
Julian Garrity, creative director at Massive Entertainment, is up for a challenge. For the first time ever, we're getting a fully...
Like, I'm not trying to say that making games is easy, but it just seems like a qualifier. Like, you're already giving yourself an out. So, hopefully I'm wrong. I hope this... I mean, we've all been wanting a good Star Wars game, so hopefully I'm wrong and this game is just amazing. I mean, I'm going to play it, and I'll have stuff on the channel about it, but... we'll see.
Open world Star Wars video game. It's been a long time coming, but after back-to-back successes with both The Division and The Division 2, Garrity was in the mood to take a risk.
This may be just my approach, but even if it's scary, you've got to do it. You've got to lean into it. What's the downside to pitching a Star Wars game at Lucasfilm Games?
More people need to do that. We need more Star Wars games. Like, it's like, I'm so tired of, like, the only really good Star Wars games that I have that are even multiplayer is Battlefront 2, and that came out in 2017.
In George Lucas's old office. I mean, what's the downside to that? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you still have that experience.
Fast forward several years after that meeting, and Massive Entertainment is less than 2 months away from releasing Star Wars Outlaws, a fully realized version of the original pitch described in that office.
The only thing that I worry about is when I watch this, it looks like it's just basically Assassin's Creed, but Star Wars. That's the only thing. I just hope it's not like that.
An open world of dual ambitions, maintain the cinematic legacy of the films, and create immersive scoundrel gameplay that grants you the freedom of the galaxy.
I think it's taken this long to get an open world Star Wars game because of how, excuse the pun, massive it is to build a game like this. There are only so many studios in the world who build games of this scale. The door is then open for Massive to come to us and say, this is what we're interested in doing. This is the type of game design and gameplay we want. This is what we're thinking about in terms of
a lot of this looks very Assassin's Creed-like, so...
archetype. Where does that fit?
It's the outlaw player fantasy, and it's open world. Those were the two main...
Dude, honestly, if we're just being honest, I don't have like anything against a female protagonist, but why didn't you make it like someone like Han Solo or someone that, you know, maybe someone in that circle? I don't know.
Main pillars that we pitched. Why open world? Because the outlaw fantasy really needs that to live and breathe.
It's a combination of, I think, our...
And the more I watch this, the more I just wish that we had a Mandalorian video game. Like, why haven't we made an open world bounty hunter Mando video game? Why have we not made that? I mean, that would literally make you like so much. I don't even know how much money. It would make you so much money.
DNA as a studio, our background, when we think, okay, what do we have a lot of experience doing? What do we think we're good at? And this fantasy, the scoundrel,
that's like Assassin's Creed.
In Star Wars begs for freedom.
Massive was fully confident in its ability.
It's like an Assassin's Creed with a Star Wars skin right now. That's what it looks like. I hope it's not. I mean, because...
is to create engaging open worlds. The Division offered a bullet-filled action playground, while last year's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora displayed an
I haven't got to play that game, but I heard it's great.
ability to work well within a Disney license by building a near unmatched visual paradise. But Star Wars was the new challenge that this team yearned for. Of course, deciding what kind of experience would live inside a Star Wars open world was the first thing that had to be decided.
We took a step back, of course, and thought, okay, Star Wars open world, what an opportunity.
Hold on. Why did that say work in progress if this has gone gold? Anyone? Comments?
What does that naturally want to be? And it wants to be the full scale from the very small to the very big, meaning sitting inside a cantina, playing
I love that there's Lando
being
in
able
this.
to walk through the street, jump on your speeder, drive across the planet's surface, park literally your bike in your own ship, take off into space seamlessly.
That vision of full scale,
yeah, why didn't they just make this a Mando game?
helped secure a green light from Star Wars custodians, but getting Lucasfilm's blessing was
I mean, you would literally be printing money if you made this into a Mando video game.
just the key in the ignition. Translating the cinematic spectacle of the original Star Wars movie trilogy into an open world, set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, two of the most iconic films of all time, was...
Or if it's set between those times, then I don't know.
The actual challenge.
I mean, Boba Fett technically was in the Sarlacc pit, almost. Return of the Jedi, right? It's when he went in, so why not just make it Boba Fett?
One that Massive set out to address in every aspect of Outlaws, from the way it looks and sounds to the type of action-adventure gameplay it supplies.
Fire up the hyperdrive.
It looks amazing though, man. I mean, it really does look amazing.
The sort of cinematic ambition that we had was in presentation. So that doesn't mean cinematics necessarily. What I care the most about is the interactive part, right? What we did was take a lot of inspiration.
Okay, this looks like, I mean, I keep saying Assassin's Creed, but it really does look like Assassin's Creed and a little bit of Watch Dogs.
From the original trilogy, but with today's technology. So very similar to what
like maybe
Rogue One
even a
did.
little Ghost Recon?
Its aim was to do was to replicate a lot of the sort of filmic effects of those lenses of the 1970s. So you'll see barrel distortion on the sides, vignetting, film grain, chromatic aberration, and of course all wrapped up.
Am I the only one that really just hates film grain? Like, just take it out.
In an ultra widescreen presentation.
It's a key point for open world games at large, but I think very much for Star Wars as well. And not always scale in that it needs to be grand, but it needs to be conscious. The scale of Tatooine needs and should and does in our game feel very different. It breeds, you know, open sand dunes, long sight lines. You see, it's easy to pick up any little anomaly on the horizon, and there might be an opportunity for you compared to the dense streets of Kijimi.
Scale is something written into the very DNA of Star Wars, whether seen on the big or small screen. Greg Fraser, Rogue One's director of photography, recently told us...
See, I don't get why they have this down here, like work in progress, unless there's this video that they got before it went gold. Like, gold basically means that your game is shipped.
IGN that...
So if you watch any Star Wars film, that's what it's all about. It's, you know, knowing how big a human is going into this massive Millennium Falcon. You know how big the Millennium Falcon is going to this massive Death Star. Like, you know, it's scale upon scale upon scale.
It's a philosophy Garrity and the team at Massive took into Outlaws when crafting the introduction to its open world.
One of our intentions was, for the beginning of the game, to make it feel very small and then bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So big.
I like that. I've always been a fan of Massive, so I'm hoping they do this right, because this game could be awesome if they did it right. The only fear that I have is that this is going to be this massive game but feel hollow. So if they scaled it like they just said, where it's just slowly like, here's your little world, bigger, 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 that hopefully will help it not just feel like this like big, massive world that feels empty. You know what I'm saying?
Beginning of the game, you start off in one room, and it's claustrophobic, and it's meant to make you feel a little bit trapped. You open up, and it's city streets, but it's contained. And then some narrative stuff, and you steal a ship, and you explode into the galaxy, and all of a sudden you crash land on this planet, which is wide open world.
Spoiler.
That sort of sense of everything growing for you, and not just the scale of the galaxy, but the scale of the possibilities for you as a character, as a rookie outlaw.
Kay Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel.
Outlaws campaign tells the tale of Kay Vess, a young scoundrel looking to build a team from across the stars in order to pull off one big space heist and remove the death mark placed on her by the Zerek Besh crime syndicate. It's the basis of a story that evokes many other adventures from across both games and film.
I love Mass Effect 2. It was one of my favorite games. I think there were
Mass Effect 2 is so good.
So many influences, everything from Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8, to Star Wars itself, you know, the previous films, like that heist feeling was always kind of in the fabric, to just tonally the films of Kurosawa, those original influences to George Lucas.
Knowing what sort of story you want to tell is one thing. Telling an engaging story in an open world setting is another task altogether, and one that Kavari is well aware of, having written for Far Cry 4, 5, and 6, as well as The Division.
It's one of the things you always always have to keep in mind is how are we going to weave a narrative and an open world together so that we're telling the story, but also giving you the freedom to sort of go where.
And that's extremely hard to do, guys. Like, I don't know if you can know that, because that's one of the nitpicks I have about most open world games is I feel like you're just doing so many fetch quests that you start to lose interest in the story.
We had a really clear approach on Outlaws, which was there was Kay's journey. We called them sort of lighthouses. There were key points that we knew we want her to hit these, and then that makes her story kind of part of the wider Star Wars narrative. But between those moments, we knew early on that if you got distracted by curiosity, the world had to react to that. It had to expect that the player is going to go off the beaten path.
The things that lie off the beaten path are built in accordance to something Massive refers to as the 3-second rule, where within a few blinks of an eye, you can instantly understand the nature of a location or character and the story behind them.
Before you even put life in them, they need to visually tell a story about what kind of place it is, what's happened in the past, what type of life and events have taken place in them. So they get that lived-in feeling, and that lived-in, relatable, substantial feel, I think is a hallmark of any good open world, but also very Star Wars.
Star Wars aesthetic has always been rooted in the idea of the used future, where everything from the largest spaceships to the tiniest droids have that instantly recognizable layer of grime. Those small details build up into authentic, cool, and bespoke spaces, something Massive has always managed to build into its open worlds. The Division and its sequel are packed full of memorable levels ranging from New York landmarks to Washington DC museums, and that philosophy is being transferred to Outlaws' many planets. Its main missions promise to take us to iconic locations such as Imperial bases and Jabba's palace.
Can you imagine what would happen if you shot an Imperial stormtrooper?
Aspect of, hey, what is the distance between the moisture farms and Mos Eisley and the cantina? There is a linear roller coaster story golden path, if you will. And around that, of course, there's the open world.
That's the dream I know I had as a kid. That is what I've always wanted from a Star Wars game, is that, you know, when I'm on a journey, when I'm entering into a quest, it might start on foot. It might start navigating a High Republic cruiser that's crashed, but I want to be able to jump into my speeder and blast off, hop into the Trailblazer, take off into space, maybe land in a space station and meet some characters that factor into my quest or journey along the way. And so that sort of connective tissue of planet
initiate
or
landing.
moon
Oh,
to
nice.
space
And then look at that. That's kind of cool. You initiate landing and then it traces where you're going to go to land.
was crucial because
That's
kind
kinda
of the
cool.
fantasy that I think players are hoping for.
That fantasy and freedom is evidently at the core of Outlaws, and while all 5 planets and moons won't be instantly available to hyperdrive between, Garrity claims it won't be long into Kay's journey until the galaxy opens up.
There's a very structured intro that leads you to crash land on Tashara, which is a moon that we created with Lucasfilm Games. And once you finish the sort of linear narrative on Tashara, the other planets open up. And there it becomes completely non-linear.
like that.
And you can choose to
I like that because like the temptation to just run off in the wild is strong with me.
tackle those in any order you want.
Exploration of these worlds is highly encouraged, with maps that are not, at least initially, flooded with icons and points of interest, because you're seeing these places from a fresh perspective.
Kay, as a character, hasn't seen the galaxy. So the first time Kay comes to Tashara is the first time you come to Tashara. And it's not an unknown, uncharted place. So you'll have a map of where you can see there's, mountains over there and stuff. But
Random, yeah, it's not like totally, here's everything all
gives
at
you
once.
more information.
You're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to go to a cantina and you can eavesdrop, pick up on some conversations that will lead you to another location that reveals a location within the open world that you have to get on your speeder to go and find. There will be a fog of war that you'll be able to clear up, and that's really where your
See, that sounds a lot like Wildlands.
curiosity will open things up even more.
Each of Outlaws' worlds vary in size. Tashara, Massive's newly created moon, is around the same size as the jungle planet of Akiva, but a little smaller than the vast desert of Tatooine.
It was less about how big, but more about how long in terms of traversal with the speeder it would be. 4 or 5 minutes non-stop, which Doesn't sound like a lot, but once you're committed, it's a
I hope that they have fast travel. I mean, I'm sure they do, but
fairly large
could you imagine
amount.
playing the game on the scooter for 5 minutes?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was one of the games that we were looking at while creating this, you have different zones, so it's 2 or 3 of those together.
And that doesn't even take into account the vast areas of space that surround each planet and serve as entirely different areas of orbital exploration and opportunity. We'll cover that, as well as the starship side of the game in greater depth later on in this month's IGN First.
I said, run.
Wanted system, let's go, baby. I'm gonna be wanted all the time.
In terms of mission design, we've seen action ranging from stealth infiltrations, frantic dogfights, high-speed chases, and intense blaster battles, with some quests even evolving to include all these elements at different stages. Star Wars Outlaws is thus perhaps better thought of as a single-player narrative action-adventure in the wrappings of an open world. Something more akin to Marvel's Spider-Man than dense RPGs like The Witcher or Ubisoft's recent Assassin's Creed games. Its mixture of popcorn action and blockbuster narrative ambition is a departure from Massive's gear-based experience on The Division. It's a new chapter in the continued evolution of a studio that started life as a real-time strategy developer.
I think if you look at the evolution of open world between Division 1 and Division 2, there's a life, a dynamism, a systemic quality to Division 2 that we didn't have in Division 1. I'm not talking about the presentation, the soft values at all. I'm talking about pure gameplay experience, single player or cooperative. That was very, very important to us to have as a...
So that begs the question, why can't this game be multiplayer? Like, let's say, hey, you go into your friend's world and you and 4 of your bros go on heists. Like, that would make the longevity of the game even more. I don't know. Maybe, I know the single player purists out there will be like, shut your mouth, mule, don't talk about that. But like, I really think like Star Wars is really lacking in multiplayer games. And so having something like this is kind of like a fan fantasy of going out and being a bounty hunter in the universe and just exploring. How cool would it be if you could have one of your bros just come in, help you with a few heists and then pop out. They get XP for it or whatever the loot they get, but it doesn't progress their story. It just progresses yours. Like, I think that would be awesome.
Living, breathing element that engages players while they're playing Outlaws.
It's an evolution of what Massive has been doing in their games for years now, keeping worlds feeling bustling and alive even when set against post-apocalyptic backdrops or in the midst of galactic wars.
We, in both Division games, but especially in the second one, developed what we call living world systems. So same thing here. We have systems that make sure that the world is always alive with movement, traffic.
That's good. You don't want like a dead planet with like
the Empire patrolling. The syndicates have footholds out there. And, sometimes more substantial events
NPCs that are doing nothing.
Perhaps Outlaw's most interesting method of breathing life into its open world is its approach to character progression. There's no leveling up or incremental stat boost to drop experience points into. Instead, Kay's ability and equipment are linked to experts, people you'll meet across the galaxy.
So basically, you just need to go find these experts and learn new abilities. That's what it boils down to.
Who'll grant you upgrades in exchange for work.
I heard you're the best shot on the planet.
Oh, and you want to be second best.
So you learn how to be a sharpshooter from a sharpshooter and so on.
You don't know exactly who they are, what exactly they have to offer you, and how to reach them.
That's like the Deadeye with Red Dead, right? Or the whatever you call it, where like you can like pause it for a second and like and then it'll go through like that.
From the very beginning. So there's this journey of discovery here as well. Intel, clues. Okay, I think there's a guy or gal or something that can do good things to my speeder here. Meaning these are really strong incentives for you to move around and journey through the world and expose yourself to other fun things on the way. And once you reach them, there's a character there to interact with and an adventure to go on because they want instantly just, oh, here you go, right? And then they essentially open up a little regional progression for you where the nature of unlocking those things is also very tangible.
So that means that you will definitely need to explore a lot and talk to random people, or you may not gain certain skills that you might be more useful to use in the game. So that in a way encourages you to kind of go off the beaten path. That's interesting.
For example, after finding a Jawa by sourcing their location from overheard intel at a cantina, you can complete a mission for them in order to gain a new skill. In this case, it's to venture into a dead Sarlacc to find a pristine tooth from its second mouth, which you can then exchange for a laser turret for Kay's starship, the Trailblazer. It's a smart way of blending gameplay progression with narrative befitting of the Star Wars criminal underbelly.
You can go on a journey with a character such as an expert who is going to teach Kay a new skill, give her a new upgrade, you know, to her blaster. That skill, that upgrade, definitely.
That kind of feels like fetch quests. Honestly, it feels like you want to progress, you got to do fetch quests. So it's an interesting way to make it more enticing, so that people will explore and do these things rather than just like XP farming stuff.
It ties into Kay pulling off the heist, but it's also very much its own journey, which is in the Star Wars tradition as well.
Another system aiming to marry gameplay with narrative is how Outlaws tracks Kay's reputation with each of the criminal syndicates. Her bond with each of the Hutts, Pikes, Crimson Dawn and Ashiga clan will strengthen or weaken depending on your choices in dialogue and mission objectives.
I'm gonna finish it. Shame.
Your reputation moving in the positive direction.
I'm gonna have everyone hunting me.
Unlocks a lot of things for you. Everything from actual access to territory that they control, where you might have been able to sneak in otherwise, to landing pads in the open world, discount with traders affiliated with the syndicate, unique, really exotic rewards, etc., etc. But if you really get on their bad side, that's another thing that you will feel dynamically in the game, because they actually send hit scores
that's like KOTOR
for you in the open world.
The reputation system doesn't just sit inside of missions though. Smaller opportunities regularly present themselves to boost your relationships among the syndicates. These might be smaller skirmishes where choosing to get involved.
Oh, so you can basically do a power play. You can make one syndicate stronger than the other, and then your relationship can deteriorate or get better depending on what you do.
Can benefit you and the organization you side with, and a strong bond may even help you out with the bigger threat looming over the galaxy.
This is getting bad. Hold tight.
If you, for whatever reason, ended up wanted and you're being chased by Empire and you cross paths with a syndicate that you have really good reputation with at the moment, they might join in and help you out.
Outlaws directly follows the events of The Empire Strikes Back and sees the Imperial forces at the peak of their powers. In gameplay terms, the Stormtroopers are basically like GTA's police and adopt a similar wanted system. Find yourself in a restricted area or accidentally fire a stray laser bullet at a Stormtrooper and you'll quickly find yourself in hot water. It's by no means a revolutionary system when it comes to open world design, but one that is made all the more exciting thanks to a lick of Imperial black and white paint.
It has a good range of escalation and de-escalation. It's really up to you if you want to try and hide, or maybe bribe an Imperial officer that's a bit corrupt in a city somewhere, or try to jump to a different space region. But you will feel it, and let's just say there are Death Troopers for a reason.
Death Troopers hunting you. Dang. Okay. See, this is what I'm curious about, because like I said, man, the one thing that always kills me about open worlds is fetch quests.
Expert side missions, and the reputation system at the core of it all, many other snackable activities exist in Outlaws open world. These range from quick contracts such as smuggling and stealing, gambling in Sabacc, to playing asteroid-filled arcade shooter games, and betting on Canto Bite's Favia racing. All of these activities bolster your ever-growing supply of credits, which can be used to purchase new customization and gear options for Kay, her pet-like alien companion Nyx, and the Trailblazer. And yet, there's more. Emergent events frequently take place throughout the open world, whether on land or in space.
Every 2-3 minutes, there'll be something that's happening, whether it's an ambush or...
So that's like a public event if you play Destiny 2. Basically.
The Empire arresting some civilians or combat with some criminal syndicates, and it's up to you whether you want to engage or not.
So with so much to do in Star Wars Outlaws, how does Massive go about avoiding open world bloat? With a near endless galaxy of opportunity, there's the worry that things may spiral, feature creep sets in, and everything just gets too big. The studio had a clear plan from the start though, leading with variety over size.
See, I think the way you solve that is you have a really good linear storyline that people want to like go and do, but leave enough room for moments of like, hey, do you sure you want to keep going forward? might want to explore the galaxy to give you a cue to, oh, this is my chance where I'm getting close to the end. I can just go explore at this point.
Quality over quantity, if you will.
We don't want things to be just big for big's sake. We need it to be contained, always fun, always proposing different activities.
It's about calibrating size to substance. When you see something that breaks pattern, that stands out for whatever reason, and you go there and look, there's something there to do, and that repeats frequently enough, and that the quests, the bespoke kind of content of the game makes use of it, so that it doesn't feel like a separate experience, but it's all one.
Of course, no matter how much there will be to do in Outlaws, one thing that can be expected is a healthy helping of nods to the larger Star Wars galaxy. Lando is set to make an appearance, and we've already seen a glimpse of Han Solo and Carbonite, but it sounds like they might just be the tip of the iceberg.
There's Easter eggs, there's characters that you'll meet along the way across the main quests and across, whether it's the experts or, you know, the wider stories you're going to stumble across.
I wonder if you'll stumble across Luke. How cool would that be?
August 30th is a really great date. I recommend bookmarking it in your calendar.
August 30 is right around the corner. A short wait for many players for whom an open world game set in a galaxy far, far away has been a long-held duty. But for Garrity and the team...
Cool. I think I'm optimistic, guys. I'm optimistic about the game. Open world games are extremely hard to do where they're really good and they don't have the bloat or they don't have the fetch quests. They have a good storyline that's still compelling to follow. It's going to be interesting seeing how they've said they're going to do some of this stuff where you have to go and get these specialists to level up, basically. It's not like an XP system where you have to unlock certain abilities. You have to literally go out into the world to learn it, which is kind of immersive and cool. So we'll see how this goes. You guys in the comments, let me know. What are you excited about for the game? Do you think this game's going to be cool? What are you nervous about? Let me know, and let's talk about it, man. Let's dish some Star Wars.
Make sure to like and subscribe, or we will execute Order 66. Check out our other videos on the screen as well.
Yes, my lord.